Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Up Close and Personal podcast. My name is Mady. If you don't know me, hi, nice to meet you. This is my podcast where I'm going to be talking all things mental health, all things real life. We're going to talk about the ups and downs of life, and I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about my story and why I am starting this podcast in general. So if that's something that you're interested in, hang around, see how you feel. I appreciate you for being here. Right now, I'm just sitting in bed. I had Raising Cane's for dinner. Absolutely delicious. I don't know if they have Raising Cane's everywhere. I live in California, so it's pretty much like, I know that on the East Coast they have like Zaxby's, I think is what they call it. It's very similar to that. It's just like chicken and sauce that tastes delicious and French fries. So, yeah. I'm feeling pretty happy from that. And yeah, I just decided that right now would be a good time to hop on and talk to you guys. I don't really have any structure for this first podcast. I kind of just wanted to come on here and let my thoughts run wild. I feel like that's what I do best. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. I guess I'll start with why I felt called to start this podcast. The main reason, if you know me, you know, mental health has always been a huge factor that has kind of shaped my life. Obviously, like, a lot of people have it much worse, and I feel like I always am saying that, but this is just my story from my perspective, and I know that it's different for everybody, but this is just kind of like my experience. When I was younger, I was always so anxious. I was the most anxious child that and you guys would probably ever meet. I was obsessed with my mom. I grew up with my mom and my sister, and I was attached to my mom's hip like no other. She really was like my safe place, and without her, I just did not feel safe, and I just struggled with anxiety really badly. Like, for instance, when I was younger, I would have like pretty much anxiety attacks in my sleep, but what the doctors were calling it were like night terrors, which I know a lot of kids have, but for me, in these night terrors, I wasn't fully asleep. I was like half awake, half asleep, and so it was like really hard to go through that and like be awake and feel the terror of a night terror, because I have a friend who also experienced that as a kid, but they said that they don't remember it at all, and they only remember because their parents told them that that's what they experienced. But I remember it, and it was not fun. It was like pure anxiety, terror. I would just wake up in the middle of the night and start running around my house, like yelling, terrified, not even knowing where I was going, but just running. And I think at that point, my mom was kind of like, okay, like, I have a pretty anxious child. Also, like, my mom would go on vacation, and I would be so anxious the whole time, to the point where I would break out in eczema all over my body just from the stress. And I still break out in eczema today from stress, and I'm almost 25 years old. So I've just always had a very sensitive nervous system. But yeah, just as a child, very anxious. And eventually, once you hit like 13, 14, and you're going through puberty and you're, becoming a teenager or whatever, it's a lot to like have a shift in your mind when you're already kind of like an anxious, moody person. And I was always a very emotional person. I still am. And so for me, that was really hard to deal with. And I feel like I kind of saw that when I turned like 13, 14. I don't know if anyone else kind of like struggled in those ages. I feel like 13 is a very normal age to struggle at. But that's when I really started feeling, really depressed, to the point where, I mean, I had felt depressed before, but it was just getting to be a lot. Um, yeah, I just remember being like depressed and being like, what's wrong with me? And, unable to kind of cope with life. Like I didn't have any good coping mechanisms. I think that my best coping mechanism was probably playing guitar. I started teaching myself guitar when I was like 10, and I would just sit in my room and play, and it brought me a lot of joy. And I feel like that was just the main thing that kind of kept me level headed. But I stopped playing guitar as much, and a lot was going on in my personal life and my family. And I had my first full on anxiety attack at the age of 14. And I still remember it to this day. It was the biggest anxiety attack I've ever had. And it lasted for hours. And I mean, I guess I could go into detail maybe in another podcast, like if anybody is curious about my first anxiety attack experience and what that was like, and, how I dealt with that with my family. Mostly with my mom, because at this point my sister had gone off to college. And so, my mom was the main one, around me, living with me, helping me out day to day. And it was a lot, but we got through that, and that's kind of what started my mental health journey, and it has gone up and down since. But 10 years later, 11 years later, I'm doing really well. And that doesn't mean that every day I am perfect. It doesn't mean that I don't struggle with my anxiety, or I don't struggle with, depression. I definitely still do, but I've learned so much over the years that I'm dealing with it with such a different mindset. And, some days I still do have very, very rough days with my mental health. And I struggle to get out of bed. I struggle to shower. I struggle to brush my teeth. Like, I struggle to be around people. Sometimes I just, have breakdowns where I can't leave the house. I think that I am a testimony to the fact that if things are really bad right now with your mental health, they can and they will get better. And, it's really expensive nowadays to be in therapy and, get the help that you might need for your mental health. And so I wanted to create a free platform here on YouTube where I just talk about my experiences and the things that I've learned. And if anything, I can be, someone here so that people who feel alone know that they're not alone. Mental health, whether it's like I've said, anxiety, depression, PTSD, any kind of trauma, just struggling mentally makes me personally feel so alone at times. And it really helps when I see people that are just being vulnerable and honest with their experience, because a lot of times, obviously, on social media, people aren't very vulnerable about what they go through when it comes to that. A lot of people put their best foot forward on social media, and that makes sense. Obviously, like, we want our peers to think that we're cool and, like our content, and not think that we are super depressed or struggle. We want to seem like we have it all together. But I think that that does more harm than good. And so I wanted to create this platform, whether it's one person that sees this or a million people that see this, it doesn't make a difference. I just want people out there to know that they're not alone, and mental illness is real and it's a real struggle. And I want people who go through that to feel seen. I go through it too. And yeah, I guess I just want to create a place to create community with people that understand what one another is going through. So that's what this is. I'm not sure how often I want to come on here. Right now, I'm just using like my webcam to film, but I do have another camera. It's just kind of easier to create the content this way. But I might kind of move the setup around a little bit. change some things. I have no idea, but I appreciate it. If you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. I really, really appreciate you, and I hope that everyone watching this knows how strong they are. Whether or not you struggle with mental illness, life is hard, and you're strong for overcoming all of the battles that people do. So I will talk to you guys in the next episode. Thank you so much for being here with me, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye, guys.